Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tech and Tactile podcast. My name is Cody with better audio now.
Indeed, and I'm Michael, and today we're diving into the wonderful world of Linux with a spotlight specifically on Linux Mint, the user-friendly, community-driven operating system that is not just free and open source, but also a strong contender in the world of accessibility.
He read from a script. Anyway, I have a lot to say about this OS, and to be completely honest, it has been one of the most liberating things for me to possibly switch to, like as a general PC user and as a gamer. Like it has been crazy, not only just for like getting away from Windows and trying something new, but it's been pretty accessible. And I'm not gonna lie, uh, it, it's really opened my eyes to what you can do on a PC, and it's insane.
Linux Mint really drives it home with how just out of the box, easy plug and play, and how light it is. Because Linux Mint, fun story for me when I switched over this past couple of weeks with it being finals week with my laptop dying and Windows and its dumb 10 gigabytes of storing fucking update temp files for some dumb reason is just beyond me. But Linux Mint saved my life during finals week, and I will never sing its praises enough for literally saving my college career.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'll never have to boot into safe mode. At least, I mean, listen, I'll say never because it's a PC, but I mean, more than likely you'll never have to with these type of operating systems, and they're highly flexible too. And that's what I really enjoy about the whole thing.
A good thing with Mint as well too is just how easy it is with Cinnamon and how the UI and its flow of its UI goes, especially with its software manager and its update tools that you can use, because everything is always just a click away.
Oh yeah, it's just, and it comes with a screen reader right out of the gate for somebody who is visually impaired. It has built-in magnification tools and screen reading software. Now, to be fair, Windows has that as well, but this is a free OS that you don't have to pay for. And, out of the box, it just comes with all of these wonderful tools that you can deal with. Like, it has an on-screen keyboard. If you were to use this, if you had a handy laptop that had one of those touch screens on it, you could technically use Mint sort of like a tablet.
You really could, because I do know that specifically with the engine and all of its stuff that it uses for that to be integrated in the OS. For those who don't know specifically, Orca, great screen reading tool. Specifically, it's better that it's ingrained in a user-friendly interface for Mint, because for non-Mint based systems that do not come with Orca pre-installed, installing that is like a whole journeying back to 2008, 2009, and boy do we have a story for that for an episode later down the line when we talk about Orca specifically. But I'm just so happy that Mint gives you this out of the box, and you don't have to do what we did for Arch-based systems to get it to test run.
Oh yeah. Just to clarify with that, we got Orca running on a Steam Deck. There might be some disabled gamers out there who are really interested in the Steam Deck, but they might be put off because, what if you can't use a screen reader? And I'm happy to say you can and you can't. It's a double-edged sword. And to explain that, Orca works with the Steam Deck in desktop mode, but in gaming mode, no, it doesn't exactly. There's not a solution there, unfortunately. But there is a workaround. Like, there are ways of getting it up and running. Unfortunately, you're gonna need a sighted person to help you if you don't have any vision. But once you get past that hurdle, it is doable and possible.
It's definitely a learning curve, a major learning curve, because if you're not on a natively Ubuntu or lighter OS like Mint when it comes to how it handles its packages and how you can kind of string things together, with Arch specifically, you have to build everything before specifically getting Orca, unlike a lot of different other places, because you have to have all of its dependencies and all of its engines before you can even think about having Orca install properly to your system when you're just trying to install it out the gate, because you have to do everything beforehand to get Orca to even register to begin with.
Oh yeah, getting the the speech synthesizer first, and then installing the screen reader. It was an experience.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to have to tell you how many pages of how many different Civil War era text documentation I had to go through just to understand what was happening.
Yeah, that's something that I would really like to talk about in the future. Absolutely. But aside from all of that, back to Mint. You don't got to worry about it. It's all pre-built into the OS and works like a charm out of the gate. The only complaint that I have is getting synthesizers installed is a little more complicated, and I have not figured out how to do that quite yet. It For those of you who have used it, it sort of reminds me of NVDA on Windows. It still has the same screen reader in it. It's very robotic. It's very like ancient sounding.
Right.
And I know that you can install other synthesizers on the on the screen reader. I just haven't quite figured it out yet.
I believe the ones that it comes with out of the box and the ones that we installed specifically when we did it on Arch as well was eSpeak and eSpeak NG, I believe.
I think it was just Speech Dispatcher.
Well,
honestly,
yeah, Speech Dispatcher and eSpeak. It was one of the two. I forget.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated, but that's Arch. I'm not dealing with Arch. We're dealing with
right
a more open Linux.
That kind of goes into another point that I was going to go to, is just kind of seeing how Mint is very different in its approach just of it as its existence as an OS, because of how different a community driven OS is versus something that's corporate.
Right. I mean, as far as I know, these rolling is it like a rolling release? Like, so it's community driven, and you update when you update, like whenever bugs are reported. Like, it's more open, so a lot of people contribute to it.
Yes, so when people find things with the Linux kernel specifically, it does get updated every time there's something addressed in the kernel directly. But as far as like OS wide and like major overhaul wide, for Mint, it's usually about every 2 years for a whole new fresh face on top of the kernel, if that makes sense. But the kernel does get updated quite frequently, sometimes daily, weekly, usually.
All that aside, though, how is it for an average user? How would you say? Let's say the pros. Let's see how's the pros and cons for switching to Linux Mint. If you were a Windows person for like your entire life.
So that's a great example for me as a full-time college student for going through my IIT degree for Integrated Information Technology over at the University of South Carolina here in Columbia. I'm all about portability and all about speed and just trying to get stuff done most efficiently and as most quickly as I can. With Windows, you always have that god-forsaken bloatware that is just so slow, and it takes its time, and you have to kill all the processes just to get things to boot. If you don't have enough RAM to support your stuff or your tabs, you're just going to be slow and you're sluggish. But what I love since switching to Mint over these past couple weeks after finals is just how responsive your whole system becomes. It's like you get a whole new PC, but it's the same PC you've had for 5 years, and it's like you get a whole new universe of things that you can do with something you've had for so long, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh my god, I never knew I could do any of this. And then like a really good thing that I always use for me specifically is the web apps feature to make any website you want into a like native like bootable application, and it just opens up right immediately. Just there's no delay, no hesitation, no processing, nothing. Everything is snappy, everything is immediate, and everything is always at your fingertips at any given moment. And you can customize it, and you can use any tool that you need whenever you need it and however you need it.
Now, could you explain that in a more layman's terms for someone like me who isn't technologically as inclined?
So basically, it gives you the ability to kind of
one click on desktop opens whatever you want.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. One click to do anything. It's always at your fingertips. And also one of the better things that I like to use on my free time, especially when I'm working on a 14-inch display going around for my classes, is the window tiling snapping is a godsend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One feature that I've been really using is so like you switch over and you're like, well, how would I do work like spreadsheets or documentations or anything like that? And there's an easy solution. You could always use Google Docs, but I don't like Google Docs. So Linux has a free open source office tool called LibreOffice,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a wonderful, wonderful piece of software, and it literally does everything that you could really expect from using Microsoft Office, but it's free and you don't have to pay for it.
And it's so
And
much more expandable too.
there is a lot that LibreOffice has to offer, and I won't sit here and say it is the end all be all because, uh, whenever you switch to Linux, that you gain things, but you also give up things that you found very useful on Windows.
Right.
So maybe there might be a lot of features in Microsoft Office that you might
Specifically,
not get.
specifically in my case, for what I use with a lot of stuff with my degree that I did lose access to, that I kind of had to find a good migration pathway to find something new to use the same stuff, was the Adobe Suite and Photoshop, because Adobe does not play well at all with Linux Mint.
And that's not to say that you couldn't somehow get it to work. There are workarounds to run Windows programs on here, but that's that's not something that I would really expand upon on a podcast kind of level. But know that if you really are stubborn and you miss your old Windows software, it is possible to do. But consult your local Google is all I can say. It's a doozy
Right,
sometimes.
yeah. Because my best recommendation for people that are trying to find the best way to either kind of learn how to navigate it or learn how to get used to it, and like, that don't want to migrate and go cold turkey immediately, is anything that you use natively on Windows that has some form of a web environment version. Use it as a web app and you can get used to it on Linux, and then you can use that, you can teach yourself LibreOffice or whatever it may be, kind of step by step, and having both of them open to see what the differences are. That way you get used to what each intricacy is that is changing as you're switching OSs, if that makes sense.
It Yeah, all this has been pretty eye-opening for me, and the cool thing about it is I am not the end-all be-all person to Linux. My first introduction to Linux was a Steam Deck. So I
Right.
literally got it. I got the dock, I put it up there, and I messed around in SteamOS. And I was thinking to myself, just like, holy crap, this is amazing. It was so good that I used it as a general PC for like 2 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
just got a newer, updated model for it. I love it. I love the Steam Deck. And oh man, if they release a desktop variant of that with SteamOS,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm all for it. But now I'm over here on Mint Cinnamon, and like I don't know I don't know everything, and I'm still learning, and there's so much to learn, and that's what I that's what it's exciting for me as a PC user, as somebody who's really into computers. This is just like a whole new world out there to
Right.
explore of things that I can do. Um, and honestly, I would encourage anybody out there who is sick of how Windows 11 is, if you don't mind like ramming your head into a wall to learn something, but not necessarily even it's not even a brick wall, just like, uh
It,
I would
it
call it
it may be a
a s-
wall, but there are many, many, many different forums that have different guides for everything for the community is made. So don't be afraid to reach out to the community, because they will always be there to provide support. Because don't ever be afraid of the terminal either, because there's always going to be
yeah,
someone to help you somewhere.
I call it a wall because I do things that make it hard on me on purpose.
Right, right.
I intentionally find things that are really hard to do and try to overcome it. But that's just the kind of person I am. I love getting into things that are a little ridiculous. But
Yeah,
I would say don't be afraid of Linux.
not at all.
I've been using Windows my entire life, and I don't think I'll look back to Windows for quite some time. For quite some time, honestly. At least until they fix maybe whenever they get out of Windows 11. I'm just not a big Windows 11 fan. I love 10. Windows 10 is cool and they're killing it, but I'm not a 11 guy, so I think I'll
Yeah.
stick to what I've got right now until this I don't know what I would call what Microsoft is going through, but until they get over their little Windows 11 hurdle for me, I'll stick with cinnamon because
So,
who doesn't love good cinnamon?
yeah, all the different ways, like all the different spices that you can use with cinnamon to kind of like spruce up your desktop with applets or desklets to do different like Android phone type widgets, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, to make your desktop look nicer and kind of improve your workflow and kind of minimize your long lists and make them look a lot nicer, especially with cinnamon as well. The main window manager is called Muffin, and Muffin is really good because not only can you differentiate its views, you can take every aspect of the UI of Mint and change it to your complete liking, size and all, because every piece of Mint's UI is always going to be modular as well, because you can change anything at any moment to fit whatever your specific need is at that time.
Can you uh, can you explain some uses of how you use it exactly?
Well,
Or
actually,
I get
go ahead.
like the your widgeting things on the desktop, or how you can customize some of the features of Mint.
So, at least in my case, for what I use on my laptop, is I have a couple of dashboards that I have from a handy little thing that shows me what my files are and what my like last recents are, and then I have a tab for my storage space, and I also have a tracker telling me kind of like a calendar what's due, when what is due, and then just kind of keeping track of like timers and deadlines for clocking in and out for my job and stuff like that, and just keeping track of like literally anything that I can think of, because you can there's a web app or a weblet or a desklet for anything that you can think of depending on what your use case may be.
And these desklets that you can turn on and off on your desktop, are they fully customizable in a sense? Can you size them up and down, make them as big as small as you want, maybe move them around the desktop?
Yes. So think of the desklets and your desktop as like a pegboard, like a resizable pegboard type situation. Once the desklet is placed on or is active, you can then right click on your desktop and add a desklet from your added list, and then you can go around and customize it, move it around however you wish. You can resize it. Some have you integrate like APIs for finding weather stuff or anything like that. Just depending on whatever you're specifically looking for, there's usually a way to configure it to your liking, whether that be visibly or on the data information side of things to make sure it's pulling accurately.
I've only have one little desklet on mine, and it just shows me what my disk space is because as a gamer, I install a whole bunch of nonsense on my computer that I play, and
Hmm.
some of it takes up quite a lot of space. So I just have that handy thing. It's on the right of my desktop. It just tells me, "Hey, you've got this amount of gigs left," and then it
Right.
has that cool little circle with the percentage on it. It's about all I need,
Right.
and honestly, it's been helping me out a lot when it comes to telling me when I need to go back on what I've got installed on my PC.
Probably my two most prevalent for me would either be weather to make sure that I have what I need for my wheelchair to make sure I'm not getting either soaked or kind of rained out, or um, I have one that'll tell me kind of like what my system information is looking like for my clock speeds or temperatures to make sure that I'm not doing too much on my system to ensure that I'm keeping it within a usable kind of state and temperature range.
Right. All this technical jargon, might scare people away. That's usually what happens with people with Linux. And to be honest, I say, you know, it it's no different than kind of what you would hear on Windows. Like
Right.
you will hear just as much technical like mumbo jumbo from any tech nerd with when it comes to Windows.
Right.
The difference is that Windows is a big corporation. Microsoft they sell you a whole bunch of eggs that you don't need on the operating system. If you want something that just works right out the gate, you don't have to worry about it having a whole bunch of bloatware on it and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that. Then All it takes is downloading from their website,
Yep.
finding a 8 or higher gigabyte flash drive.
I believe the ISO image for Mint when you flash it to a drive is about 3 gigs.
Which is insane compared to Windows.
Compared to Windows, yes.
You will use a little tool to flash your flash drive and make it a bootable image. And there's plenty of guides out there. You'll basically plug that sucker into your PC, hit a button, go to your boot screen, and hit load Mint. And there you go, depending on how your BIOS are. And you're off to the races. You can install it directly to your hard drive and, get Linuxing. It's
indeed
honestly something that I cannot recommend people to do enough. And I didn't do it justice. I basically just explained
just for the aspect of saving space, because it's wild to think about how much space you lose just by using Windows on a drive. That alone should be motivation enough.
Right. It's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits to doing it. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. If you're a gamer like me, you might run into some issues. You might be like, there might be some older games that you might have trouble running. Like, I like to run older PC games, and Windows has pretty good backwards compatibility programs that you can use to run older software.
Mm-hmm.
And though it works on Linux, you will have to jump through some hoops. So, and then there's the multiplayer aspect if you're a gamer, and not just speaking technically as just a PC person.
Right.
If you wanted to play games like Call of Duty or anything that has an anti-cheat on it, then more than likely Linux is not for you, because a lot of Linux users get banned immediately for going on anti-cheat, or just, I guess anti-cheat doesn't like Linux. So
they've never had a good history at all. The history of the war between the two of them has never been good.
No, not at all. But if you're not a multiplayer kind of person and you play little games like I do, like little single player games, experiences like that, then Linux will be a very comfortable switch. Everything works right out of the gate.
It's possible thanks to a little thing called compatibility layers, also known more commonly either as Proton or Wine, depending on what you're trying to do, which we will get into at later episodes as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All I can tell you is that Steam does everything for you.
Correct. Steam has been a godsend. Lord Gaben himself, bless him.
Yes, bless Lord Gaben.
Yep, exactly. I mean, as a kind of point, just to say this, like, when you look at Windows and just how it controls, I believe it's, last time we looked, like, 70% of the PC market just in general for as far as operating systems go?
Yes.
Like,
somewhere around there.
Yeah, why, like, when you look at it, like, you have Windows 10 and 11, and you have all these landmarks that people are flocking to that you have to buy keys for. And Mint 1, completely free, completely open source, no extra strings attached. And not only that, you get to pick which version you want. And depending on which version you want, you either get new features, lose some features, but you also get more lightweight compatibility for older systems. Something you don't see with Windows, which is wonderful.
Oh yeah, I have an old laptop, and it's still a good laptop. It's a 2015 laptop. It's got like a 1060, 12 gigs of RAM, and i7. It's not cutting edge, but it's losing support because it can't support Windows 11. It only supports, like, the motherboard will not support it for some reason. And so, if you have an older laptop and it's still good for something, and you can't use their newer operating systems from Microsoft, that's a good way to, introduce it to Linux, because, that doesn't mean your computer has to be dead. If you have an outdated operating system on it,
it's like giving the face makeover of a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage anybody to just take the leap. There's a lot to read up on. Stay off of websites like Reddit or other places. Like there's a lot of elitists out there who would be kind of just what's a nice way to put it? they're not very helpful. They're the reason why people are scared to go to Linux. But
Exactly.
then there's a lot of resources that you can look at
Right.
that will literally get you going on the right path you want to go down. And
Mm-hmm.
there is something for everybody on this operating system.
Yeah.
People a lot more people just need to, it's a little scary because it's all with
Mm-hmm.
Windows. It's all that you've ever used.
It
But
can
once you take the plunge, it gets a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, it can be very scary to go out of your comfort zone for the first time, but once you're released to your freedom and you get over that initial fear, the amount of control you have is so good because let me tell you, Linux Mint has that perfect balance between the powerful yet simplistic nature of itself that just is that perfect complement just to have that open source accessibility for people that just makes it one of the most inclusive OS options I think I've ever witnessed and tried personally myself. Just having your freedom be this metaphorical like oyster of the open source world has just been wonderful, and I don't think I'm ever going back to Windows after experiencing Linux and Linux Mint. If anything, I'm probably going to dive into each different distro from time to time and see what's different and what's added, and just kind of gain my knowledge of this wonderful community because it is just so good.
Yeah, it is honestly been a huge eye opener for me, and I can't wait to learn more about it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go sudo apt install an app that's going to help me find a way to take better naps.
Indeed, I think the world could use that secret sudo apt install. Indeed.
Well, this has been a pretty cool little episode, but I want to leave it up to anyone else who possibly can have some insight. As I've said before, I'm pretty much I don't really know shit. I am pretty clueless whenever it comes to a lot of things going into the tech world and the the world of accessibility. This is kind of a learning experience for me. So I want to pass this on to anyone else who may listen to this. If anybody else has any kind of stories or maybe experiences or advice, just in general, feel free to shoot it our way. I would love to hear about anyone else who's possibly dealt with Linux. And if you've never heard of Linux and want to know more about it, and we maybe turned you on to the idea, maybe find a way to let us know.
Yeah.
I'd love to know anyone else's stories about jumping into, getting out of your Windows comfort zone.
Exactly.
And yeah. So for any of that, I pass this conversation on to any of you guys.
And
So
as And as always, feel free to leave us a comment down below wherever you're able on any of your platforms. Also, please feel free at any time to check out our website at techandtactile.com and look at our resources page. And also feel free to contact us through our contact form on our website to reach out, leave us a message or any suggestions you may have. That way we can also provide support not only to you, but to future community members through our blog as well to have for them to see in the future.
Right. Well, at that, I have nothing more to say. It's time to go find that app.
Indeed.
So, with that being said, everyone have a good rest of your day, and remember, stay accessible.
Indeed, stay accessible, everyone. Thank you.